All right, let's talk about something you've definitely seen before. Whether it was in a Psych 101 class or a corporate training session, you know Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yep, that's the famous pyramid, the one that tries to explain all of human motivation in 5 neat, tidy little layers.
But what if it's wrong? I mean, what if I told you that the whole idea, the very foundation of this model that we see everywhere is, well, kind of shaky? What if that perfect step-by-step pyramid we all learned about is actually a total myth?
There it is, the image we all know and love. It's so simple, right? It feels right. And that's exactly why it's become this universal symbol for what makes us tick. But today, yeah, we're going to take a closer look and maybe, just maybe, pull it apart a little.
Okay, so before we can talk about a new way of thinking, we've got to make sure we're all on the same page with the old one. Let's do a quick refresher on those classic 5 levels that have been the go-to blueprint for motivation for like 70 years.
So the whole thing starts at the bottom, right? With your most basic physiological needs. We're talking air, food, shelter, the absolute essentials. Once you've got those covered, you supposedly move up to the next level, safety. This is where things like job security, your health, and financial stability come in. After that, it's all about love and belonging, finding your tribe, your friends, your family. Then you climb up to esteem. That's the need for self-respect, for recognition, for feeling like you've achieved something. And then, finally, you reach the very top of the mountain, self-actualization, becoming the best version of yourself you can possibly be.
Now, you can probably see why the business world absolutely loves this model. I mean, it lines up almost perfectly with the idea of a traditional career, a simple, straightforward climb up that corporate ladder. Just think about how it's supposed to work in your career. Step 1, you get a job to get a paycheck, just to cover the basics. That's your physiological need, check. Step 2, you start thinking about job security, a stable place to work. Safety, check. Step 3, you start to feel comfortable and you want to fit in. Find your work friends, your team. Belonging, check. Then you start chasing promotions, getting that recognition for your hard work, esteem, check. And finally, you reach the promised land, a job that's not just a job, but your passion, your purpose. It's such a neat story, isn't it? But here's the thing, life, and especially work, is almost never that neat and simple.
And this is where the plot thickens. It's time to look beyond that rigid ladder, because it turns out the pyramid model is a bit of a myth, and it's got some serious problems.
You know who the biggest critic of the rigid pyramid was? Abraham Maslow himself. That's right. He later wrote that the hierarchy is not nearly as rigid as people thought. He basically said, hey, this isn't a strict one-way street. The order can change, it's flexible, it depends on the person. The guy who created it saw the cracks in his own famous pyramid.
Okay, but here's the real shocker. Get ready for this. Maslow never even drew a pyramid. Not once. That iconic shape that's on a million PowerPoint slides, a management consultant added it years later because, well, it was an easy way to sell the idea. Maslow's actual vision of motivation was way more dynamic and, messy.
So let's just put them side by side. On one hand, you've got the pyramid view. It's rigid, it's sequential, it's a one-way ladder where you conquer one need and then forget about it. But on the other hand, you have what Maslow actually believed. The motivation is dynamic and flexible, an interconnected system where we're juggling all of these needs at the same time.
So why does the pyramid model just not work in the real world? Well, a few big reasons. For starters, it was based on a pretty biased sample of people, and it really only reflects Western, individualistic values. But the biggest problem is that it assumes you have to, 100% satisfy one need before you can even think about the next one. And it also ignores the fact that needs like feeling safe or belonging aren't something you achieve once and then you're done. No way. They have to be constantly maintained.
Okay, so if we're tossing out the pyramid, what do we replace it with? Let's talk about a new model for motivation, one that's a whole lot more realistic for how we actually live and work today.
I love this analogy because it makes so much sense. Think about your needs like vitamins. You wouldn't just take vitamin C for a whole year and then decide, okay, now it's time for vitamin D. That's not how health works, right? You need a little bit of all of them all the time to be healthy. And it turns out our psychological needs are exactly the same.
So this is the big mental shift we need to make. Motivation isn't a ladder you climb, one rung at a time. It's a whole system that you have to keep in balance. Just because you're excited about a passion project doesn't mean you stop needing a paycheck, right? And your need to feel like you belong, that's just as real on your first day as it is years later.
Okay, this is where the rubber meets the road. What does all this actually mean for you, if you're a manager or a leader? Let's build a practical playbook for leading the whole person, not just the employee.
First things first, safety. And I'm not just talking about job security. I'm talking about psychological safety. Can your team members take risks? Can they admit they made a mistake without getting their head bitten off? That's what it's all about. And this isn't some box you just check once. Think about it. One bad reorg, one new boss, and that feeling of safety can completely evaporate. It's something you have to earn and re-earn every single day.
Next up, belonging. And this is not some fluffy, mid-career luxury. This is absolutely essential from day one. Great leaders know this. They build community on purpose, with things like mentorship programs, team building, and by setting the example with inclusive language. And this isn't just about being nice. It's smart business. It builds trust, it fuels teamwork, and it's what makes people want to stay.
All right, let's talk esteem. And listen, this is so much more than a corner office or a fancy job title. It's about real, genuine recognition. Sure, fair promotions matter, but so do the little things. Like when you trust an employee to mentor someone new or to take the lead on a project. That sends a powerful message. It says, I see you, I trust your expertise. And that's what gives people the confidence to really shine.
And finally, that big one, self-actualization. Remember how in the old pyramid this was some distant, mystical peak that only a few people ever reached? Well, forget that. In this new way of thinking, it's a need we can feed every single day, at every level. It's about helping people grow. It's aligning their job with what they're good at and passionate about. It's giving them time and money to learn new things. A junior developer mastering a new coding language, that's self-actualization in action, just as much as a CEO launching a whole new division.
So when you put it all together, the big takeaway is this. Your job as a leader isn't just to help people climb some imaginary ladder. That whole way of thinking is just too small, too rigid for the world we work in now.
Instead, you should help them set sail. This is a fantastic metaphor from the psychologist Scott Barry Kaufman, and it replaces the pyramid with a sailboat. Think about it. The hull of the boat, that's your security. It's your safety, your connections, your self-esteem. It's what keeps you stable in the water. But the sail is your growth. That's exploration, purpose, passion. It's what catches the wind and moves you forward. You absolutely need both to get anywhere.
And so that really just leaves us with one final question to think about. As a leader, if you stop thinking about that old pyramid and start thinking about a fleet of sailboats, how are you going to make sure your team has both a sturdy hull and a full sail? How are you going to nourish all of their needs all at once so they can truly navigate their own journey?